I went to the Boston Marathon in April 15th, 2013 because my daughter was running in the marathon. So I was waiting for her at the finish line, looking forward to seeing her cross, and I knew she was getting close. The crowds were cheering. I just remember it was one of the happiest moments of my life. All of a sudden, there was a tremendous earth-shattering noise. The blast knocked me off my feet, and as I was lying on the ground, seconds later, a second bomb went off. About 2 feet away from me was a woman who I could tell was in tremendous pain. The inside of her lower left leg was completely exposed and gaping hole. She was crying out for help, so I crawled over to her. And I knew there wasn't much I could do for her, but I held her hand and I called for help. And I told her I wouldn't leave her until help arrived. Well, after the medics came and took Erica away to the hospital, they told me that I was wounded as well. So they took me to the hospital, and hours later I was reconnected with my daughter. I hadn't known what had happened to her, and she hadn't known what had happened to me either. So it was a very emotional reconnection. And she said to me, "You know, Mom, we were spared by a miracle. Our lives will never be the same. We need to think about our passions and our purpose." And I thought, you know, you're right. I've had a gratifying career, but I've gotten further and further away from things that really mattered to me and where I thought I could make a difference. I've grown up in a family of travelers, and I've traveled all over the developing world with my kids and my friends. And I thought about the beautiful things that I'd seen in those countries and the pieces I've brought back to my own home, and how they've really been a touchstone to me for a world outside my doorstep. But the artisans I've met through my travels had told me that their way of life is changing and that they're losing their jobs because they simply don't make enough money. And since 70% of artisans are women, they end up being alone in the cities without jobs and without their traditional support systems. So I thought, market access, well, maybe that's something I can help with. I've been a marketing executive for 30 years. Maybe I can be a person to go in and help connect these artisans with consumers who appreciate their product and help them thrive. So I went to the CEO of my company, and he understood where I was coming from. And so I left a couple of weeks later and started this brand new company. I feel like I'm honoring God with what we're doing with Artisan Connect, because we're restoring jobs, we're providing jobs that bring dignity and happiness to people, as well as income. I think more than anything, it was this instant at the marathon, this flash that really reconnected me with who I am deep down, the person I've always been. And I just put that on hold for a couple of decades, but it reminded me instantly for who I am and what I care about, and galvanized me into action.